Before this story goes anywhere, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. We put out new stories every week, and trust me, you don't want to miss where this one goes. My name is Casey Whitfield, and I want to be very clear about one thing before this story goes anywhere. I am not the kind of person things happen to. I'm the kind of person who sits in the third row, turns in assignments 2 days early, and eats the same turkey sandwich every single day because decision fatigue is real, and I read about it in a magazine at the dentist's office. I'm organized. I'm careful. I'm boring on purpose, because boring people don't get targeted. That strategy worked beautifully for 2 years and 4 months at Hartsfield High School in Decatur, Alabama. Right up until the week the prank war started and someone put a live crawfish in Bryce Dillard's backpack. I want to be clear, that was not me. I don't touch crawfish. I don't touch anything with that many legs. But by Monday morning, the whole school had decided that the prank war was the most important thing happening in the known universe, and unfortunately, I had made the catastrophic mistake of laughing when Bryce screamed. He'd screamed like a man who had seen the face of something ancient and terrible. I'm not made of stone. But Bryce Dillard had a very long memory and very little sense of humor about himself, and by Tuesday, someone had filled my locker with approximately 40 packets of honey mustard. Which sounds funny until you realize I was wearing a white shirt and had a history presentation in 20 minutes. It looked like a modern art installation. My teacher gave me a B- out of pity. By Wednesday, I had been hit by a water balloon from a moving golf cart, which is not something I knew was even possible. And by Thursday morning, I was standing in the parking lot of Hartsfield High with honey mustard still in my hair and a very clear decision to make. I needed protection. The problem was, I had approximately 4 friends, none of whom were physically imposing. My best friend, Lena Beaumont, was 5'1" and once cried at a paper cut. My friend Marcus Webb was tall, but moved through the world like he was constantly worried about knocking something over. And Jade Cooper, who was the most confident person I knew, had made the unwise decision to start dating Bryce's best friend 2 weeks ago, which meant she was diplomatically unavailable. That left one option. Deke Calloway. Deke Calloway was a junior at Hartsfield High who occupied a very specific category of person. The kind whose reputation arrived in a room about 30 seconds before he did. He was tall in the way that seemed deliberate, quiet in the way that made teachers nervous, and had a look on his face at all times that said he was calculating something. He'd been suspended twice, once for reasons nobody fully knew, and once for throwing a desk, which everyone fully knew because Marcus had filmed it on his phone, and it had 112 views. He sat alone at lunch, not in a sad way, in the way that suggested everyone else had made a mutual, silent agreement to let him have that particular corner of the cafeteria undisturbed, like a nature preserve, but for one very large, very unimpressed Alabama teenager. I had never spoken to Deke Calloway in my life. I had, in fact, actively organized my walking routes to avoid him for 2 years. And then I walked directly up to his lunch table with $40 in my pocket and the last remaining shreds of my dignity.
I need to hire you.
No.
You didn't even let me finish.
Didn't need to.
Look, I know you do this kind of stuff for people and you're really good at it. I just need your help with something important. It's not a big deal, but it is to me, and if you could just hear me out, I promise it'll be worth your time.
You got honey mustard in your hair.
I'm aware.
How much?
$40.
60.
Fine.
And that is how I ended up walking to third period AP History with Deke Calloway, approximately 1 foot to my left, which is not a sentence I ever expected to say out loud. The effect was immediate and slightly terrifying. The hallway parted. Not dramatically, not like a movie, more like the way water moves around a large rock in a river. People just quietly found other places to be. Bryce Dillard made eye contact with me from across the hall, looked at Deke, and suddenly remembered he had something important to do in the opposite direction. It worked. It genuinely worked. For the first time in a week, I walked through Hartsfield High without dreading what was coming around the next corner. The strange part started around second day. I'd expected Deke to walk beside me in silence, collect his $60 on Friday, and return to his corner of the cafeteria like nothing had happened. That was the transaction. That was the deal. Instead, somewhere around Thursday morning, I realized he'd started talking. Not a lot, not in a rush, just observations. Quiet ones, delivered like he wasn't sure he was going to say them until they were already out. Your history teacher hates being interrupted, but she slows down when she's about to say something she thinks is important. Wait for the slowdown and write that part. I got an A on the next quiz. That vending machine by the gym takes your dollar and gives you nothing. Use the one by the science hall. It's rigged to give you 2 bags if you push the button twice fast. He was right. I got 2 bags of flamin' hot Fritos and felt like I discovered electricity. The problem, and I say problem because that is the only honest word for it, was that the more Deke talked, the more questions I had. And the more questions I had, the more I started noticing things I hadn't noticed before. Small things. Wrong-feeling things. Like the fact that he always knew where Bryce was going to be before Bryce got there. Like the fact that, twice now, he'd steered me slightly away from a hallway right before something fell from an upper locker. Something that, if I'd been standing 3 feet to the right, would have landed directly on me. Like the fact that when I asked him how he knew Bryce's schedule so well, he'd gone very quiet for a moment and said,
I just pay attention.
I had been telling myself this whole story was about a prank war. I had been telling myself Bryce Dillard was the problem, and Deke Calloway was the solution, and I was just an innocent bystander who'd laughed at the wrong moment. That was the story I knew. That was the story that made sense. But I'm a 3rd row, 2 days early turkey sandwich person, and I was starting to notice that some of the numbers didn't add up.
Can I ask you something?
You're going to whether I say yes or not.
How did you know about the locker thing? Yesterday, the one by the gym.
Told you, I pay attention.
You pay attention to Bryce Dillard's prank schedule.
I pay attention to a lot of things.
That's not an answer.
I know.
That night, I did something I hadn't done in 2 years. I went back through my phone. Old texts, old group chats, things I'd minimized and closed and told myself weren't important. I was looking for something. I didn't know what. I found it at 11:17 p.m. on a Tuesday night, sitting on my bedroom floor in Decatur, Alabama, with a half-eaten bag of flamin' hot Fritos and the slow, nauseating realization that I had been wrong about something for a very long time. 2 years ago, before I had perfected my strategy of deliberate boringness, I had been in a group chat. The group chat where the original prank had started. Not the crawfish prank, the first prank. The one that had started the whole cycle of this particular war. The one everyone at Hartsfield High had half forgotten. I hadn't started it. I want to be honest about that, because honesty is something I owe this story. I hadn't started it. But I had been in the chat when it was planned, and I had said nothing. And then, when it had gone further than anyone expected, and Deke Calloway had taken the blame, taken a 3-day suspension, I had said nothing about that either. I had stayed in my 3rd row and eaten my turkey sandwich and told myself it wasn't my problem. and Deke had spent 2 years eating alone in the corner of a cafeteria because of something that wasn't entirely his fault. And I had walked past him every single day, and never once. I didn't. I called Lena at 11:22.
Casey, it's almost midnight. Did you know about the original prank? Did you know Deke wasn't the one who planned it? Casey? I mean, we all kind of knew, but it was 2 years ago, and he'd already been suspended and everything was already... He knew. He knows it was our group chat. He's known this whole time. Casey, you're spiraling. He knew who I was before I even walked up to that lunch table, Lena. He took the job anyway. Why would he take the job? I don't know. Yeah, me neither. Good night.
I didn't sleep much. I lay there thinking about the way Deke had said I'd just pay attention, and the way he'd known where Bryce was going to be, and the way he'd taken $60 from a person who had silently watched him take a fall for something that wasn't entirely his and never said a single word. The next morning I got to school early. I found him before first period, standing by the water fountain near the science hall, the one that worked, not the one by the gem that sprayed sideways. I told him I knew. All of it. The group chat, the suspension, the 2 years. I told him I was sorry, and I meant it in the specific way you mean something when you've been carrying it without knowing you were carrying it, and now you've put it down and you can feel the shape it left. He listened. He didn't interrupt. He looked at the wall just above my head the whole time, the way people do when they're listening hard and don't want you to see that they're listening hard. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I know you didn't plan it." And I said, "That doesn't make it okay that I stayed quiet." And he looked at me, actually looked at me, not at the wall, and something in his face shifted in a way I didn't have words for. Not forgiveness exactly, more like recognition. Like I'd just passed some quiet private test I hadn't known I was taking.
You want to know why I took the job?
Yeah.
Because you came to me. Nobody in 2 years came to me for anything except to stay out of my way.
That's... Deke, I came to you because I was covered in honey mustard and desperate.
I know why you came. I'm telling you why I said yes.
That's the saddest thing I've ever heard.
Don't make it weird.
It's already weird. You've been protecting me from a prank war that exists partly because of my group chat, and you knew, and you did it anyway.
You turned in homework early and ate the same sandwich every day and had never done anything to anyone. Seemed like bad targeting.
So did you actually want $60, or were you just...
I definitely wanted $60. I'm not doing charity work here, Whitfield.
Laughed. A real one. The kind that comes up without asking permission and doesn't care what your face looks like when it happens. And then Deke almost smiled, which on his face looked like a very slight relaxation of something he'd been holding tightly for a long time. And it was somehow the funniest and the most honest thing I'd seen all week. Here's what I had gotten wrong. I had thought the story was about a prank war. I had thought the danger was Bryce Dillard, and the solution was $60 and a large, intimidating junior who owed me nothing. I had thought I was the person things were happening to, the neutral bystander, the innocent third-row turkey sandwich kid who just laughed at the wrong moment. I had been so busy looking at the prank war that I hadn't seen what was actually happening, which was that a person I had passively wronged had spent 2 years being reduced to a corner of a cafeteria, and a reputation that arrived ahead of him like a warning. And when I had finally, accidentally, desperately, honey mustard covered, walked up and treated him like someone worth asking, he had said yes. Not because I deserved it, because he was tired of the corner. We talked to Principal Hartley that afternoon, together. I told her about the group chat, about what had actually started 2 years ago, about what I'd stayed quiet about. It wasn't comfortable. Lena came too, to her credit, and Marcus, and we sat in those orange plastic chairs outside the main office and told the truth in the specific clunky way you tell the truth when you've been holding it for longer than you should have. Deke's record got a note added, not cleared. That's not how it works in real life, and I'm not going to tell you it is. But noted, contextualized, which is at least something, which is at least more than nothing, which is at least the thing I should have done 2 years ago. The prank war fizzled out about a week later, the way prank wars do when they stop being entertaining and start costing people real things. Bryce Dillard moved on to some other drama. The honey mustard shirts went in the back of my closet. Deke still eats in the cafeteria corner, but Marcus sits there now sometimes. And Lena, when she's not running late, which is always, because Lena Beaumont has never once in her life been on time for anything. And me, I sit there on Thursdays, because Thursday is when they have the chicken tenders, and the corner booth has the best angle on the vending machine by the science hall. I still eat the same turkey sandwich on the other days. Decision fatigue is still real. I stand by that. But I started paying attention. Not like Deke, not with that particular quiet watchfulness he'd spent 2 years perfecting out of necessity. Just more. More than before. Because it turns out, the most dangerous thing about being a careful, organized, boring on purpose person is that you can watch a lot of things happen around you and tell yourself they have nothing to do with you. And sometimes they don't. But sometimes, you're more in the middle of the story than you realized. And the only honest thing left to do is stop pretending you're just watching it.
You're here again.
Thursday, chicken tenders.
Right.
You could sit anywhere.
I know.
You going to tell me to leave?
No.
Good. Marcus is coming. He's bringing Lena. Fair warning, she will be late.
She's always late.
You noticed.
I told you. I pay attention.
Yeah, I know. I'm learning.
Sorry I'm late.
We saved you a seat.
Want one?
My name is Casey Whitfield. I sit in the third row, turn in assignments 2 days early, and eat the same turkey sandwich 4 days a week. On Thursdays, I eat chicken tenders in the corner of the cafeteria with the meanest guy in school. He's not mean. He just paid attention when nobody else did, and waited quietly in his corner for someone to finally notice.